where this video is headed, but I kind of got a good feeling about it. Today I'm going to talk about suffering, which I have done a lot of recently. My brain started melting back in September and didn't stop melting until April when I got steroids. And for most of that time, all that time, what is that, 7 months? All that time I was miserable. And a good majority of that time I was in a constant state of psychosis. And my life was hell. And then I got steroids. And now I'm dealing with the aftermath of that, which is its own challenge, I've come to find. A challenge that is hard enough if it were its own challenge, let alone coming after this nightmare that I've just gone through. And I feel like this aftermath has taught me more about suffering than anything else because, man, my life is really hard. I don't want to say it sucks. It's just hard right now, okay? That's what my therapist says. Because when I told my therapist, my life really fucking sucks, he said, no, we don't talk like that. So I'm not talking like that. My life doesn't suck. It's just hard right now, okay? Maybe one day it'll be better. But let me elaborate the ways in which it is hard right now. Every single day, all day, I feel like last night I went on a huge bender. Like, drank 8 beers, maybe did a line of Coke or 2. Not that I'm familiar, Mom. But it feels like that. Every day I wake up and I feel like I've been on a bender. And then as soon as I get out of bed, I look around and the room looks all sorts of fucked up. It looks like I'm looking through a fishbowl or something. That's the best way I can explain it. My vision is just messed up. And I have these after tracers where I look at objects and I look away and there's like these rainbow after images. And I have visual snow. And every time I read text on my phone, and I look away from my phone, I have these burnt lines in my vision, which maybe some of you guys who have visual snow can actually relate to, because that's the thing. It's a characteristic of having visual snow. That started back in November when I started to go psychotic. In addition to that, I don't feel like myself at all. I'm able to articulate well, but I feel like I'm in the backseat of my brain. I get a little scared of how I feel sometimes. I feel like there's residual insanity, and it scares the ever-loving shit out of me. So I'm dealing with feeling miserable right after a prolonged traumatic event, and I cannot even describe my misery right now. It's not like I just feel bad. It's like I feel bad, and I feel so disconnected from reality. Not to the point of psychosis, but my brain's just been rattled really, really, really good. But it's taught me a lot about suffering. When I was in the middle of it, when I was losing my mind and there's like pressure in my head squeezing my basketball brain tight, and all these weird head sensations like ants eating my brain, and then I'm looking at people's faces and they look scary and stuff. Like during all that, the intensity of the horror is so high that you don't even have any way to process the suffering or learn from the suffering or anything like that. Maybe a little bit, but mostly it's just like 100% survival mode. And then in April, when both Eric, my brother, and I both got steroids for what is inflammation, but no doctor would ever admit it. Even after I got steroids and I had a follow-up appointment, I told my doctor, I said, steroids worked. And he said, well, yeah, steroids can make you feel kind of good, and you're kind of the ripe age for a psychiatric illness. And maybe, it's possible that your brother had something and then you had, mass hysteria where you developed psychologically the same physiological symptoms, but you don't actually have a condition. So like, even though I told my doctor that the steroids worked, they're dismissive the entire time. Anyway, I say that to say that it was fucking inflammation, and anyone who thinks otherwise can lick my beanbag, because me and my brother thought it was inflammation from the get-go. Every single doctor along the way tried to stop me and stop us, or we're looking the wrong direction. Like intracranial pressure is a sensitive marker for inflammation. Just saw a video about a doctor talking about that. No doctor thought that high intracranial pressure mattered in our situation, even though we were having encephalopathy, which means your brain's going haywire. Anyway, this is kind of a side route. I'm just saying doctors are just like really number oriented, and they don't look at the bigger picture. One of the doctors, neurologists I was seeing, was saying that I had idiopathic intracranial hypertension, which basically means you have high intracranial pressure for whatever reason. We don't even know. When I was having encephalopathy, and it's like, well, maybe there's some inflammation going on causing high intracranial pressure. Whatever. Fucking doctors, man, is all I'm saying. During the intense portion of it, it's hard to process suffering. It's just so intense. You're just trying to figure out the solution to get out of it. And now that we've basically found the solution, which is steroids, had 3 days of high dose IV steroids, I'm left with the aftermath, where my brain is completely wrecked in one way or another, and it sucks. It sucks so bad, but I'm done. Like I had steroids done. I'm no longer psychotic. It's pretty obvious to me that I can talk fine. Everything's okay. I just feel absolutely terrible and scared a lot of the time, to be quite honest. Faces still look startling. When I look at people's faces, I get jump scared because I'm so used to seeing faces as like evil. Like it's the way my brain perceived it. Eyes would look evil and faces would look evil. And so now when I look at strangers in the face, I get jump scared. It's hard for me to have small talk with people because I'm looking at their face and I'm very uncomfortable looking at faces. And what makes it worse is that the world around me, my vision's all messed up. So like people still look kind of strange. Their silhouettes look weird. Everything looks bizarre. So it just feeds into that like memory of how faces used to look and how they used to scare the shit out of me. And so like it's stuff like that. Like my life is kind of like I don't want to say hell because I'm trying to like work on positive language and we're heading in the right direction, and ultimately, in the long run, we're gonna be fine. Is my true belief. But it fucking sucks. I'm not gonna lie, it fucking sucks. I was out of therapy today and I fucking cried. I told my therapist, I said, "You ever see Groundhog's Day? My life is like Groundhog's Day, except for every day I wake up at the same day, and it's the worst day of my life, over and over and over again. That's my fucking life." The steroids took the massive edge off. It took the misery from 1,000 to 100, but my life is very, very difficult. But here's what I've learned through suffering. Suffering is not pointless. You learn stuff from it. Thank God. Otherwise, it would just be so much worse. But you also have to learn about suffering and how to handle it. So I guess like here's some things that I've learned very loosely because I'm going to just blab some more. I've learned that you have to accept suffering as a challenge bestowed to you, and it is not you are not the exception. The suffering did not choose you, and you're plagued by it, and no one else has to deal with their own suffering. It's everybody deals with suffering in one way or another, and you have to take the suffering that the universe has laid at your feet as a challenge, as a noble challenge that is yours to complete and surpass and surmount and get past and get through. So that's not easy to accept. Okay, because I'm suffering right now, and a lot of it is insecurity in the future. Am I going to get better? Is my vision going to get better? Am I going to feel connected to reality fully? Am I going to feel enough integrated into the real world again that I can maybe find a wife one day? Like these are the thoughts I'm having. Am I ever going to be okay? Am I going to be able to talk to strangers again and make new friendships? And from the outside, it might be easy for you to say, of course you're going to be fine. Look, you're talking fine. Your brain's okay. But from the inside, when my world has been rocked for almost a year and I'm now dealing with the aftermath, it's hard to find secure footing, especially when I'm dealing with all these residual symptoms that also rhyme with the trauma that I've just gone through. But if you take the suffering as a challenge and a noble one, it becomes easier. It takes some of the pain away, because a lot of suffering can be worsened or even just be caused by the fact that you're struggling against it. You're trying to fight the slippery thing, try to fight something that you have no control over. I have no control over what happens with my healing process of my brain, and yet I sometimes fall into the trap of wrestling with it, and it's a futile one. You can wrestle with it all day long, but ultimately I have no control over what happens. It's just time has to do it. So what you can do instead is accept the fact that you are suffering, and that it's something that happens to everybody, and it's your noble challenge to endure it and get through it, and that makes it easier, although it's hard to stay in that mindset. Another thing I've learned is, holy shit, never take fucking anything for granted. I remember I've said in the past, I don't take my life for granted. Life is going pretty great before this. You do, in fact, take your life for granted, even if you think you don't. When you have everything stripped from you, I can't have a beer at the end of the day. I have no relief from the suffering. It is just constant, and there's no escape from it. I can't go work out really hard. I can do small bike rides, but I can't talk to people. It's hard to talk to people, and it's hard to work. I have brain fog and all sorts of stuff. It's really weird in here. It's not just brain fog. I feel kind of normal, but I have brain fog. It's like I'm tripping balls in here a little bit. It's like coming off of a really bad trip. I'm just dealing with the horrible afterglow. So it's crazy in here. What the hell was I just saying? You might think you don't take things for granted, but you do. And I honestly hope my story has helped two people. One, the people who haven't suffered yet, or don't ever suffer to the extent that I've suffered, and they've seen my story, and they get to go, holy shit, I'm really grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the things I have and the things I can do and the freedom that I have, because my freedom is stripped from me. My life used to be a pinpoint back in January or whatever. My brain was frying out my ass, and I was in so much misery, and I couldn't do anything but curl up in a ball and listen to lo-fi beats. My life was a pinpoint. It's expanded slightly. I can do some things now, but a lot of people have freedom to do anything, and it's important to recognize that and be super grateful for it. And I also, for the other group of people, I wanted my story, I just hope my story has helped them know that they're not alone, because people go through hard stuff. Like, people go through like long-term derealization, depersonalization episodes, or they deal with visual snow that's really bad, or they have, a bad divorce and they lose custody of their kids and stuff like that. Like, suffering happens to everybody, and it's helpful to see someone openly talk about their suffering, because it lightens the load. It lightens the global load when you know that you're not alone. People have their own struggles, and that ties into the fact that if you suffer, don't scream at the universe and say, why me? It's something that happens to everybody to one degree or another, and it is your personal challenge to handle it. And that's how I'm trying to view my suffering. And don't take things for granted is all I'm saying. Like, I miss my life. I've accepted my challenge of and sometimes I don't accept it. Sometimes I fight against the slippery eel that is my suffering, and I lose every time, and then I come back to accepting. But generally speaking, I'm trying to accept my suffering, but I miss my life. I miss it so much, and it makes me want to cry. I feel boxed in. My brain feels boxed in. It's hard to interact with reality. Things look weird, feel weird, everything. I miss, hanging out with the boys and slamming some beers. I miss, it was easier to make videos back before this happened. It was just easier. Now it's just hard. I miss not being traumatized. I feel like my innocence has been stripped from me. But that's another thing, is that suffering and trauma will change you. It will change you. And I think part of how you handle it during the process of enduring the trauma and the aftermath of trauma and suffering, how you handle that, if you handle that nobly, I think it really can accelerate you afterwards. Not that I've experienced that yet, but I just feel like if you stay focused, you stay engaged, and you try to do your best to keep structure in your life and develop your emotional, physical, spiritual, mental aspects of your life and self, if you keep doing that, keep structure, stay grounded as best as possible, when you get out the other side, you'll be better for it. You'll be stronger, and you'll have all these habits that you've already practiced while you were suffering, and now these habits are easy. If you just lay in your suffering and let it just consume you entirely, you're going to come out the other side probably not, it's just going to be harder to get back to life after that point. So if you can during your trauma try to not just let the suffering consume you entirely, I think there's a lot of benefit that can come from that. I think I never expected this level of pain. Like, the pain, every day I wake up and it's just pain all day until the day is over, and then I wake up again, it's pain all day, and I'm trying to keep structure and everything. I just never thought I'd deal with this much pain in my entire life. It fucking blows. But it could always be worse too. It could be way worse. I was eating ice cream or something yesterday, and I got a brain freeze for like 20 seconds, and my eyes were watering, and I was like, holy shit, thank God that goes away, because if I had a brain freeze for like ever, it'd be probably max like 3 days before I drove my car into a lake or off a cliff or something. I could have, the pain could always be worse. You think it can't, but it can. And that's another thing about suffering, is that Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, he talks about how suffering fills the body like a gas entirely, no matter if it's small or big. And it's true, but I think that's only true if you haven't experienced a higher level of suffering. So if you experience some suffering, it's going to consume you entirely. You have a divorce. Okay, it's going to consume you entirely. It's horrible suffering. Oh God, the agony. While someone who might have, seen a lot of shit in war, and has PTSD, would way rather go through a divorce. But they're also filled to the brim with suffering. It fills you up no matter what. But if you've had, like, if you've seen all sorts of horrible shit in war, and then you deal with a divorce, I feel like the suffering becomes less. So it feels, I don't know what my point is. My point is that suffering fills everybody up with a gas. But I think when you endure suffering and trauma, you can come out the other side and stronger. I think that's what they mean, is that you can handle life better. You handle the things that were struggles don't seem like such a big deal anymore, and it just changes your outlook. I mean, God, if I get my life back, like, everything's gonna feel so good. I feel miserable all the time, like I'm coming off an amphetamine constantly. It just like so if I get my life back, it's like it'll feel like heaven. While before, I took my life for granted. There's a lot of things I took for granted. I was unsatisfied with my life. I kind of felt like there wasn't a lot going on. I had a few things, I'd make YouTube videos and I'd go take flying lessons. But like other than that, I drank beer in the evenings and like work out occasionally. But I just kind of felt empty and disjointed. And I wasn't satisfied. But now if I got my life back, it would feel like heaven. So that's another thing, I guess. It makes you much more appreciative of life, as tripe as that sounds. Is it tripe or trife? Tripe. Yeah, as tripe as that sounds.
Trite.
That's all I gotta say, man. Shit sucks, but I'm trying to stay focused. The progress is so unbelievably slow, it's almost imperceptible. In fact, I'd say it basically is imperceptible. It's just a lot of slogging through misery. But the thing is I'm 26 and I have to think about the big picture. Like, am I going to be this fucked up forever? And I'm not supposed to use that language. Sorry, Paul, my therapist. But am I going to be this fucked up forever? No. Like, am I 86? I'm sure to hope not. I'm not this messed up. So, like, the end goal is getting better. And there's going to be points where I reach where I go, this is way more manageable. Because right now it sucks. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just trying to share that I am suffering, and I want to share what I've learned through suffering, and help those who are suffering to know they're not alone, and just share what I've learned so that you can come out the other side better and endure it stronger and be proud of what you're going through and take it as a challenge as best you can. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just let it whip your ass, and that's fine. I've had those days where I literally just lay on the couch all day or don't get out of bed. I've had those days, but most days I get up and I fight because I want to come out the other side better and stronger and have these habits of life that are good and healthy, and not just let the suffering wash over me and consume me and just like, God, I hope I'm going to get better one day. I have to work at things to make my life better and expand it from that pinpoint that it once was into a little bit more and a little bit more. And eventually I'll have full freedom where I can engage in the world in meaningful ways and not feel so confined and traumatized, because I'm traumatized as shit. If you guys could experience what I've gone through, it would blow your goddamn mind. And some of the stuff you guys have gone through, it would blow my goddamn mind. But one way or another, we're all in this together, because suffering is a blanket that covers the entire planet. And if you can just see someone else suffer, sometimes it just lightens the load and maybe helps turn trivial things into trivial things. I miss my old life. I miss it, and I'll never be the same. I will never be the same. But my goal is to come out stronger, different but better, different but better. And I think it's too easy to come out the other side of trauma, different but worse. You let the fear consume you, let it just eat your brain out. You come out the other side just a shell of yourself and scared of the world. And that is not where I want to end up. I'm going to come out of this a different person entirely from who I was, but that can be a good thing. And that is my end goal. And I'm working hard at it. Motherfucker, I'm working fucking hard at it. And I'm going to get there. All right, I love you guys. Thanks for listening to my rant. I'll catch you later.